An athlete getting injured during a game is no biggie. We've seen that go down often. But have you ever seen a player stumble to the ground totally disoriented and then join the game despite being visibly unwell? That's what happened during a matchup between Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills when Tua Tagovailoa shockingly re-entered the game following an injury. In today's video, we'll tell you all the details about the shocking incident and the investigations. Starting off with the Dolphins' take on Tua's concussion. In a recent match between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills, the Dolphins quarterback didn't seem to be doing very well. At first, the spectators saw him shake his head slightly, and it was pretty clear from the get-go that he was struggling. He then stumbled and fell back to the turf, shocking his teammates and fans equally. Athletic trainers eventually helped him back into the locker room, and the backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater took over for the remainder of the half. The Dolphins stated in the press box and on Twitter that with a head injury, Tagovailoa was doubtful to return to the game. But there was an unexpected turn of events following that announcement when Tagovailoa shockingly returned after halftime, sending Twitter into a frenzy and attracting the attention of union leadership. This raised many questions. Was Tua playing while on concussion protocol? Was he fit enough to continue? Why were the Dolphins making a player who's clearly struggling and disoriented play a game? Well, they recently came out to address fan concerns and answer all our questions. According to his head coach, Mike McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa isn't in the concussion protocol despite appearing to have poor motor instability after hitting his head against the ground during the game. Now, both Tagovailoa and McDaniel claimed after the game that the third-year quarterback was having issues because of a back injury. Tagovailoa's back and ankle are sore, as McDaniel confirmed the next day, but the team won't know more until he undergoes extra testing. Let's look at what else he had to say. McDaniel remained unclear regarding Tagovailoa's participation in the upcoming game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Likely, we won't see him in future games. We mean, it's the least his team could do at a time like this. He went on to say that it was his first time watching a Thursday night game with Tua, but it wasn't significantly out of the ordinary to have bumps and bruises after a game. After being struck by Bills linebacker Matt Milano, Tagovailoa appeared disoriented as he stood back up, but the team didn't take any action until he stumbled and fell. Tagovailoa had missed Miami's final 3 first-half snaps because of what the Dolphins initially claimed to be a head injury, and he came back to begin the third quarter. Now, NFL regulations state that if a player has a possible concussion, thorough in-game evaluations must be done. This means that any player who appears to be disoriented must not be made to continue, and a proper, thorough examination must be done to ensure their safety. While the Dolphins medical team denies that Tua was in concussion protocol, the NFL Players Association isn't buying it and has stepped up. Moving on to the investigations. The NFL Players Association has exercised its right to ask for an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the quarterback's decision to re-enter the game against the Bills. According to sources with knowledge, the investigation will be conducted jointly by the league and the NFLPA and will include a review of the relevant footage, discussions with Tagovailoa, the team doctor, the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant, and any other relevant parties. We'll have to wait another week or two for the investigation's outcome. It then remains to be seen if the league and union will accept that the concussion protocol was properly followed or not. Now, when a player experiences gross motor instability, they can only be cleared to play if the team doctor and UNC determine that there was no neurological cause for the instability. So how did they go about it in this case? Did they merely believe Tua when he claimed that a back injury he sustained earlier in the game but failed to report was the cause of his wobbliness? Did they take any other measures to ensure that a head injury wasn't the cause of the instability? He was obviously allowed to go back, but whether or not his gross motor instability had a neurological cause is a different question from whether or not he displayed symptoms of impairment when examined in the locker room. That we'll have to wait and see. Let's look at how it'll play out. Things could get serious and quite ugly for the Dolphins if the union isn't satisfied with the results. If there's a disagreement regarding whether the concussion protocol was followed or not, the union may file a grievance. Arbitration would be used to decide the issue. The NFL and NFLPA have, however, always come to an understanding regarding whether the concussion protocol was followed or not in any particular situation. The team has previously been subject to fines. The duties of one or more UNCs have been terminated. The protocol has been modified to address and fill the potential loopholes, but it isn't as simple and seamless as the league wants it to be. Now, when it comes to the process of assessing players with severe motor instability, there may be a serious flaw. They shouldn't consider it a good enough procedure to ensure a player's safety if they only believe the player's explanation for why and how he was jittery. That just doesn't cut it. According to the vaguely defined but reliable standard of knowing it when you see it, we all know that Tua was knocked unstable due to a head injury because we saw it. He never grabbed his back and said, "Oh, that hurts." It was his head. Anyway, whatever the result, the protocol needs to be followed in a way that safeguards players who are showing such impairment, based on hard facts and not what they claim, especially considering that players are typically hardwired to do whatever it takes and say whatever they can to keep playing. Now, let's look at how players often lie for job security. We don't know how bad Tua's concussion is right now, but it's super unfortunate that he was forced to play in a situation that could have threatened his health in the long run, and it isn't the first case of its kind. We've seen several examples, not just in the NFL, but in other sporting leagues too. Athletes can go to any extent to stay on the team, from some extreme workouts that could potentially prove fatal to overexerting themselves to the point of lifelong injuries. They do it all. It's unfair and unfortunately rarely ever talked about. It's awful that only a select few stars with proper and clear job security are free to speak openly about this subject. Anyone else who isn't a Hall of Famer and raises a voice about the circumstances a player has to perform under is either vilified, penalized, or trolled by internet bullies. And this is why the temptation to ignore potentially fatal head injuries in order to continue playing is very real. Players would rather put up with pain and discomfort than speak about it. And that's why the protocol must take that dynamic into account to avoid the worst-case scenario in which a player who has already sustained one head injury later suffers a second, far more serious one. Sure, the paycheck is great. No one complained about the fame that comes with it either. But compromising your safety and well-being is a massive price to pay for all of that. Now, here's what the Dolphins have to say about the investigation. The Dolphins, according to McDaniel, are happy to cooperate with the investigation and were satisfied with the procedure they followed. He claimed that if there had been any red flags, the Dolphins wouldn't have proceeded in the direction we did. He added that the team would never push players to perform when they couldn't. I don't mess around with that. McDaniel also repeated that Tua was cleared to continue the game only after an examination by the team and the independent neurologist. He also said that Tua was quite irritated with him in the game because he was aware of the pain and didn't understand why people kept bringing up the subject. Here's how the fans are reacting. People are upset, and they're going after the team as well as the entire league over the incident. Many think that the head coach had been exploiting players for their own benefit. Others were more than willing to give the Dolphins the benefit of the doubt in this case. Fans also felt that the investigation shouldn't take more than 3 days at max, and the NFL was just dragging it out for no reason. People also believed that the NFL would protect the team doctor at all costs. Others thought that the Miami doctors were going to be dealt with brutally, with several terminations coming. Whatever happens, we sure hope Tua feels better soon, and it isn't something serious. We also hope players continue to focus on the game and their careers, but not at the cost of their well-being. And that's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Tua re-entering the game mid-concussion? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more. See you in the next one.